Hi and welcome to Swedish Plant Guys. A lot of you subscribers have a lot of questions for us, and one question that has been popping up quite frequently is concerning our self-watering system video, and what you wanted us to make a complement to that video was a water gauge, or how you make a water level indicator. So that is what we're going to do today, and if you like this video, don't hesitate to subscribe to our channel and hit that bell so you get a notification every time we put up something new. So what we're going to try and create ourselves today is actually this. This is a manufactured one by one of the largest pot companies in the world. And this works perfectly, works very, very good. Here in Sweden you can buy this in a lot of shops, but you usually have to buy the pot that comes with it, so it costs quite a lot. But you can make this yourself. Now, what is this? Well, when you have a closed system and you have potted your plant in a self-watering container or self-watering system, you want to know, because this is only for show that we have a glass container here. It's so that you will see what happens inside. Usually you have a pot or a container that is not see-through like this one. So you want to know, how much water do I have in the bottom of the pot? This is where a water level indicator comes in, and that is what this is. Now what it does is, I'll actually fill up some water here. If we have water in the bottom of this container and we install this water level indicator or water gauge, what will happen is that when you put this down into the water, the indicator inside, this red small plastic stick here, actually goes up. So as the water is going to be sucked up by the roots or evaporate, it's going to be less and less water, and what happens is that this indicator is going to go down. So you will always know how much water you have in the bottom of the pot. And it looks like this. This is, like I said, a manufactured one, and you have a lid here with an indicator where you have minimum amount of water. This is where you want the stick to be when you have no water inside of the container. And then you have a maximum. And this is of course manufactured for a specific pot that has exactly this amount of water in the bottom of the pot when it's full. So if you go past this point, you will actually be reaching the soil or the pumice or whatever you have been planting in, and that is not good, because you want to have the water is going to be separated in a closed system like this, in a self-watering system. So when it reaches max, you stop watering and let the plastic stick stay there until it goes down to minimum again. The plastic stick looks like this, where they have a small styrofoam piece here that floats. So when the water comes in through the bottom of this tube and fills up the tube, the stick is going to go up because the styrofoam here floats on top of the water. Very simple, but manufactured and works very, very good. Now, if you don't want to pay for one like this, you can make these yourself. And today we're going to make two different types, two different varieties that works equally fine, but you can choose which one you can get a hold of the components for and which one works for you. So starting off, what you need to go out and buy, either way, if you want to use System 1 or System 2, is a tube of some sort. Now I have two different types here. There are different sizes, and of course you can match the size to the pot that you're using, to the plant you're going to be planting, so that it doesn't take up too much space inside of the pot. These are very simple to get a hold of in any hardware store. These are, we call them in Swedish, we call them VP-rör, or VP tubes. They're actually used when you wire electric wires inside of houses. You draw the wires inside of these tubes. So they're very cheap and very easy to get a hold of. And they are also in different sizes. You can pick the one that is perfect for you. and they're very easy to work with as well. Now I have used this one. It's a little bit bigger than what I perhaps would use for a pot like this, but it is so that you can see as clearly as possible what it is we're doing. What you also need is, of course, something to build your water level indicator inside of this tube with. And you can make this two ways. Now, the first way is the easiest way, but it's also the way that is it's perhaps not as nice as the other one. It doesn't look as nice as the other one. And it's also the cheapest one. It is to just go out and get a hold of some form of styrofoam, like this sheet here. This costs almost nothing, so it's very simple. Or you can actually use something that you maybe gotten in the mail in a package or something. It just needs to be styrofoam, and it needs to be straight. So what I've done here is that I've actually cut out a piece of this styrofoam to look like this. And this is what we're going to use instead of this inside of our water level indicator, inside of our water gauge. We're going to use a complete styrofoam piece like this one. Because what happens here is that when I put this down inside of the tube here, it's also going to float on top of the water. So when I have the tube inside, in the bottom of this pot, I have water here in the bottom, which means that the styrofoam floats. So I know how much water there is in the bottom of the pot. Now, this is not a very good looking piece, this is not very good looking. So what I would do in this case, you could do is actually make a indicator on the styrofoam here. So you know that when it's in the bottom, you have the minimum here. You can make a mark like this with a pencil. But you also want to know if this is the complete amount of water that you want in this system, you can fill that up and you can make another mark so that you know when it's completely full as well. Like that. Now I can cut off this part here. Like this. Now, when there's no water inside of the pot, it's going to look like this. It's all the way down. I can see my little marking there. And when I fill water inside of this pot, the water gauge is going to go up. And I can also see that when my little small indicator here, when it reaches the top of the tube, I know that, okay, we have enough water in the bottom. I'll stop watering. And then as the plant continues to suck up the water and some of the water evaporates, it's going to go down. And when it's in the bottom again, I know, okay, I can add some more water again. Now a little extra tip for you if you want to use this very, very simple solution and very cheap solution is that you could do this instead. Where you had the bottom marking here, the marking that says that you have no water or you have full water in our system, if we cut it there instead, like this, I know that when I see this small styrofoam stick, when it comes up to the edge of this tube, I know that I have full capacity inside of my container. Then it's going to go down and disappear. I won't see it. But when I see it again here, I can see that it's up to the rim here. I know that, okay, now I have full water again. I can leave it alone until it's down in the bottom again. This way, you don't have to have this piece sticking up all the time. So you won't have to look at it. And this is the best way to keep it as nice and clean as possible. Okay, the other way I want to show you is we use the same tube again inside of our pot, and I have some other stuff here that probably you have at home or it's very easy to get a hold of. This is a simple floater that you use for, we call it in Swedish, flotör. It is a fishing tool that you use when you go fishing to be able to keep the line at the same depth in the water, because this is going to float up up on the water water surface. Thank you. So we can also use this inside of this system. And I also have a simple straw here. You could use any color you want, but for some reason my kids at home have had green ones and yellow ones, so we're using a green one here. Now I can just put this on top here so that this is going to be our indicator. And when I put this down into the water here, we have the same thing as with the styrofoam, because that small floater in the bottom, that small fishing tool, is going to float on top of the water, and what we see is just the small straw here. And you can do the same thing with this straw. You could make markings on this to see where you have the bottom and where you have full capacity inside of your pot. Or you could also see to it that you have full capacity of water in the bottom and then make a small cut to your tube. And every time you see that tube coming up to the level here, you know that, okay, I have full capacity with water inside of my pot. So these are two different types, very easy to make, anybody can do it. Just to make this as clear as possible, I thought that I would also pot a plant inside of this, so you can see the entire process of how we do this. So I'll just pull this water back. Now I thought I would plant this Aglonema Maria in this pot. Now I'm going to use the same tube as I did before, and if you look at this tube, you can see that I have cut this tube in a little bit of an angle like this. And that is because when I put this down in this type of container, it's actually going to be standing in it in a little bit of an angle like this. And I want as little as possible to be able to get inside of my tube, because if you plant this in a self-watering system, you're either going to be using soil or pumice. And if you're using soil, you will in the bottom here for the water level down here, you're going to be using, let's say, leca pebbles or maybe some gravel or something, and you don't want that to get inside of this tube, because if it does, this styrofoam piece here is actually going to be lying on top of the gravel, and you will be fooled to think that the water level is here when it's in fact some of the pebbles that have gone into here. You always want this to be down at the bottom, so you want as little as possible to be able to get in here. But of course the water has to be able to go inside here. So if you do this at a little bit of an angle, usually there will be some way for the water to get inside of here. But if you do it perfectly, it could be completely sealed. What you can do then is that you can take a shearer or a scissor or something and just make small cuts like this one to your tube. Just small cuts like this. Let's see. There. And this is just a way for the water to get inside of the tube. Now, I'm going to plant a plant in this pot so you can see how this all works. You put down your tube in the bottom of the pot. You make sure that it's standing exactly where you want it inside of the pot, like this. I'm going to be planting this in pumice. Now it's not purely pumice. We have a mixture that we buy that is a mixture of pumice, clay and long-term nutrient pellets. So, but I'm going to use the word pumice all the time, but we have a mixture in this. So I'm going to fill up with pumice in the bottom, and this first part that I'm filling up, that is actually going to be where we will have all the water inside of the system. Just hold your tube so that it doesn't move when you add this. And then you make sure that you have the right level before you put down your plant. I think that is maybe a little bit more. Now this part is actually, all of this here I can use as for where the water in our system is going to be. If I go past this point, I'm going to hit the plant directly and it's going to be standing in water. And you don't want that. That is the complete thing with a self-watering system. So up to here is where I can have water inside of the system, and that's quite a lot actually, so it's going to be a lot of water. Now, that also means that this is the amount of water, about maybe 12 centimeters or something here. So I can put down my water level indicator here, and I'm going to use the straw version, I think. Or no, we should use this one, it's easier. So I put this down inside of here, and I can see now that it's actually perfect in size because it's going down to the bottom and it's up here to the edge of the tube. So when I add water here, it's going to start to rise. And I'll make that, I'll water the plant as when I've planted it. Now when you plant in pumice, we usually take away the top bit of soil here, and that's just because it's easier when you're planting it. Because if you have the soil here and a very acute angle here, it's more difficult to get the pumice down in the sides of the container. So by just removing some of the topsoil here, the ones that is completely loose, there are no roots up here, it will be easier to plant this. So I'll put it down here, like that. I think I have to add some more to the bottom. Yep. Now I just fill up with pumice all around the plant. There you go. Now you have that planted, and since to be able to show you here, you can see now that the plant is actually standing here. Because I couldn't get some pumice down here, but if I could, I would take a stick here and just try and get that pumice down here as well, because you never want these air pockets. But just to be able to show you here in this video, it's perfect, because now we see that we can have water all the way up to here. Now what will happen in this pumice is that as this plant starts to grow, it's actually going to send down water roots into here, and it's going to grow out with normal roots upside here around the plant like this. Now if I've done this correctly, what will happen now is that when I add water to this system, my small water meter here, the styrofoam piece, is going to start to come up. So we'll try it. And here it comes. Now, since this is a see-through pot, we can actually look and see that we have water all the way up to here, which is about the perfect amount for this system, I think. So now I know that this is exactly how much water is maximum inside of this container. So what I would do now, because this is not a very good looking thing to have with your plants. So what I would do here now is that I would take a scissor and I would cut this part off like this. So as the water evaporates and the plant is starting to drink this water, it's going to go down, and this water meter is going to disappear inside of this pot. When it's all the way down to the bottom, I can actually feel all the way down to the bottom inside of this pot. I know, okay, I have to add water, and I add water until I see that this is level with the tube again. Now I know there is full of water inside of here. Now this is two very simple ways to make a water level indicator that anybody can do at home. It's very, very simple. Which type or which form you want to use, that's completely up to you. Now, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. If you have any questions or if you have a video that you want us to make for this channel, please don't hesitate to make a comment down in the commentary section. We never answer you there because usually an answer requires a small novel from us and we don't have the time to make that. But when a lot of people have been asking the same question, we make Q&A videos where we take up your questions and try and answer them for you. So until next time, hej då!